Alrighty, thank you everyone. For those who know, I'm Dan Troup from Remax, and this is Rick from Constellation One. Today we're going to talk to you about the two data consumer groups that we have, the certification analytics, and then Rick has his data consumer group as well. What's yours called?
It's data consumer group.
Just data consumer group? Okay.
The two are pretty intertwined at this point.
Before we get rolling, RESO strives to increase competition in the marketplace and will not be a forum for anti-competitive conduct. The RESO antitrust policy governs the activities of RESO and its members, including this meeting. Please consult RESO counsel if you have any questions about the policy. I want to start talking about certification analytics and what it is. We do have a mission statement. Our mission at RESO Cert Analytics is to enhance the efficiency and transparency of the real estate industry by measuring, validating, and promoting the implementation of RESO standards. We strive to provide valuable insights from our RESO Analytics platform to help those working with real estate data make informed decisions and improve existing standards through new metrics. So what does this mean? For those of you that are new and have not been a part of the Cert Analytics group, I welcome you to join us if you're a data consumer. It's kind of where the rubber meets the road. We can do all these standards, but until they're implemented, until we measure the implementation of them, are we really using them? And that's what Cert Analytics is all about, is about measuring the use of the standards we have today. But also, it's very circular. It's, if you were in the data dictionary work group meeting that we had here, a lot of questions were around is, who's using this? And that's what Cert Analytics, it looks to answer. Who is using specific things within? What kind of information are we seeing? And if you don't have that information, it makes it very tough to make decisions. So our group is used to help make decisions and help push things forward in some of the other work groups, such as transport and data dictionary. You can view a lot of this data at certification.reso.org. Here's an example of a certification for RE Colorado. How many of you have been to this website? Awesome. I know we use it within our organization when we get a random request for a field and we need to see where that field exists within an organization. Sometimes it's tough to go through our own stuff and it's easier to kind of just come here and take a look at it. If you haven't gone there, it's an open website for you to go to, again, certification.reso.org. A shout out to Josh Darnell and his team and what they've created here. I know Rick and I have both been around long enough to know what certification looked like before. And it was nowhere near to this level to be able to measure the results of how well the standards are being implemented.
And I would say that this piece of work here that's been done as far as certification and then some of the other things that we'll talk about as far as data richness reports, data availability reports, were one of the biggest asks that we had from the data consumer side to really understand what's out there. From a data consumer standpoint, as you said, it was huge to know the saturation, the population of each individual field within data sources and across nationally to be able to know where the weak spots are, where people can improve, and then where to build products around, what to avoid.
Yeah.
Because the data just wasn't going to be there to support it anyway.
Yeah. It's easy to read the data dictionary, look at a field and go, oh, let's build something off of that field, and not realize, that I'm just trying to think of an example. I always go to vegetation. Vegetation isn't in every MLS, or that field's on every.
Greenfield is one where we've kind of seen some improvement, and it has been getting better, but there's been a lot of asks to build a lot of products, a lot of things around green. And initially there just wasn't much there, and this really kind of showed, hey, it's under 20% population across the MLS data sets, and it is something that's growing though. And again, we can track that as well as it's happening.
You can dig a little deeper into these certifications and find out how they perform, right? How they perform versus against their peers, looking at things like average payload side, average response time, to see how well and how to tune your servers to consume this data as well. So these are things that this is a tool that is constantly growing, and we take input at this work group. So we meet approximately 2 to 3 times a year, depending upon the need, to give feedback to help build this tool out. One of the most recent things that we've been building, or that Josh and team, I don't say we, I'm building 0 of this. Thankfully, RESO's funded well enough that we can actually build these tools. These aren't cheap to build, and because of your RESO membership, we're able to have these tools available to be able to use them. And there are things that we're looking at to potentially do that are premium tools, premium features amongst this tool, like alignment reports. So coming out soon, we will have some alignment reports. I know we've talked about these before. We chose AI Rebecca's MLS here to, I prefer the real Rebecca, by the way. No, you don't. Have John show you the text I sent him after that one. He'll like that one. These alignment reports, right? In statewide MLS, they have 2 web API providers. You'll see here they have CoreLogic Trestle and Bridge Interactive, and how well do those align as a provider. So if you're a data consumer and John is nice enough to offer a choice to teams like mine to say, who do you want to work with? Do you want to work with Trestle or Bridge? To be able to come here and be able to see the differences between them that may fit your need is huge. But also for John to look at it as the data provider to say, I want them to be equal. I want them both to be good. And if you are working inside Trestle and that's where you want to work, you should be able to get the same experience inside Trestle that you do inside Bridge. So these are things that the certification tool is focused on today in getting these out. I'm not sure on the release date on these, but I think that they're close to bringing those to market. So what did we talk about on our last meeting? Well, in our last meeting, we're focused pretty heavily right now on Data Dictionary 2.0 and the certification of Data Dictionary 2.0. In Data Dictionary 2.0 certification, there is a lot of big changes with validating data values and enumerations, and to making sure that, oh, okay, lights just went off over there. To make sure that the data is valid in enumerations, we're doing things like spell check. And what's come out of that has been the fast track group. And Rick, I don't know if you want to talk about the fast track group at all. Have you been participating in that one?
I have. Yeah, fast track is an opportunity to get everyone together for certain key areas, and dictionary has been a big one, where if there's a key need, we can really talk about it, have the right stakeholders around, discuss, is this something that needs the big group vote, or is this something that we can actually go through and solve a problem a little bit quicker. There's been a lot of feedback that it just takes so much time to get some of these things implemented, and RESO is trying to be a lot more reactive to the needs of consumers, to the needs of people out there using the data, and so it's an opportunity to really help move things along a little bit quicker when it's safe to do so.
So one of the things that we get with the certification tool is we get to inspect a lot of data, right? And we get to do aggregations and see what values are in those fields. And what happened was during the time that we were inspecting a lot of the data coming across, it didn't align with what was in the data dictionary. But then some people said, well, shouldn't this be in the data dictionary? We're seeing this a ton. Like, maybe we should just put this in the data dictionary. And this is kind of how the fast track group came to be, of say, maybe we should just change it as quickly as possible right now, so everyone can meet this specific standard, and we can get everybody certified on Data Dictionary 2.0. So one of the first things that we tackled when Fast Track decided to bring their items to us to analyze them, in our last meeting, one of the first things we tracked, we looked at fields that are related to each other, like property type and subtype. As well, let's start with an easier one, things like county, or country, state, and things like city, right? Focusing on the relationship between those to make sure that they get them right. I have a great example of this, if you would like to see it. Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this? Yeah, this is real data that we receive. I'm not sure how someone was able to type C0 as a state. You guys know I like to have fun with data if you saw my first session. It's fun to kind of peek into what we're seeing out there today. But this is a relationship between these two, and using a specific standard is what we were focused on first. And it's something that we actually approved in our last meeting to move to an ISO standard for country code, and as well as state code. And pushing these forward so everybody's talking kind of the same language here on data values is very important, but also where two fields relate to each other. So after that, we tried to tackle property type and subtype, and that is a mess. And those two fields are related, and the problem is that nobody's checking them while they're being checked individually, they're not being checked together to see the results of them together. So that's something we're looking to tackle next, is tackle more fields there. But also, I want to take this opportunity to be interactive to say, as data consumers today, if you're in the audience, what should we be tackling in this CERT analytics group? And I think this is a good opportunity to say, what's next for us? And I can give you some of the things that I think we want to tackle, but this many people don't show up to our meetings. So I would love to hear, as a data consumer, what kind of troubles you're having. And it could be anything from, I'll give you an example. Part of the certification process has tasked the system like it's tasked us, in that Josh, as he's downloading all this data to do aggregations on specific fields to say how many values are there, he texts me, he's like, hey, are you getting rate limited? And I was like, yeah, welcome to the club, buddy. Like, you're a little late. It's like we deal with rate limits all the time. And he's like, well, maybe there should be a standard that how we notify people about rate limiting. I said, well, let me bring it to the group. Let's talk about that. Maybe we should institute 429s when you've hit a specific rate limit so you know what to do. But some servers don't give 429s. You know what they do? They stop responding. And that's difficult, right? It's difficult as a data consumer. So feel free, step up to a mic. What do you think is next for CERT analytics? What would you like to see as, and think of this, we have customers, right? I'm a consumer, Rick's a consumer of this data. MLSs are also customers of CERT analytics. I would say nothing's off the table. So now's your opportunity to speak up of things you would like to see or add to the agenda. Or this is a meeting now. We can discuss it now too as well. Yep. Anything? Man, this is the last day.
This doesn't bode well for me because I'm coming up next for pain points, which is entirely you guys.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have the last day and not have another question. So, Catherine listed. Well, your question made me think it would be so nice if we had a place where we could go to just see all the opportunities and all the ways that data comes in, like actually a map of what's happening now and who does what. So if there's 10 things that can happen with this MLS and this vendor, what's in existence, what isn't, so that you could kind of identify the markets you want to be in, which I think the analytics tool is going to do, but.
Yeah, we kind of have that today. Are you talking about per field level for each market? Or are you saying by MLS or by market? Let's clarify that first.
Yeah, that's true.
Because San Francisco is a market with, what, 4 MLSs in it? So.
Actually, that's a really good point. It should be by market or by area, because if you are looking at new regions, you might not even know what MLSs or associations exist there, right? So just the lay of the land in a geography, and then the vendors and associations and even brokerages perhaps that are part of it.
Yeah, everything is by MLS right now.
Yes.
But geography might actually be a really nice add to that.
So that's a great question. First of all, it's a great statement or question, but we have seen some, since it is built on Elastic, we do have Kibana dashboards that could be exposed at some point that show for a market of an alignment within a market. So we do have these things called market alignment tools, which are mainly meant for MLSs to align with each other, but I don't see why a data consumer couldn't use those tools to help determine if their product would work in that market. And I can think of many markets where multiple MLSs are not clashing, I shouldn't say that, but overlapping. San Francisco being one, Detroit being another, Atlanta being another. These are markets where data shares start to get really messy, and the data can also be messy, but also could you launch your product there? And I think knowing half the battle is knowing the right MLS in a market, and I think you made a great point there around that. And maybe just having some kind of report that gives us that information would be a good add into the system. So thank you for that. Is Jason here? Is he taking notes? Okay.
Yeah. And also, I wanted to say something real quick. The industry alignment reports, that you were showing earlier, will be available next week to anyone certified on Data Dictionary 1.7. And then the first week of November, there's going to be a webinar for the PAR, Provider Alignment Report, and MAR, Market Alignment Reports. If anyone would like to participate in that, they can email analytics@reso.org.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Analytics@reso.org if you would like to participate in the introduction of those,
Yep.
those alignment reports that are coming out?
Yep.
Okay. I think this is interesting, though, to talk about it since we are talking about consumers here, of reports for consumers. Since I'm a consumer and Rick's one, we can just totally take over this meeting and only talk about consumers if we want to.
But all going to roll right into pain points.
It's all going to roll right into pain points. But I think it's a great idea to eventually focus on consumers and be able to find the correct MLSs in your marketplace.
Correct.
Anything else? How do you guys feel about rate limiting? Should we save that for pain points? Should we talk about it? Let's talk about it.
It's a topic.
What?
I think we can talk about it in pain points.
Let's talk about it in pain points. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I will say rate limits had a discussion in transport. I think there was a conversation about that. I think we landed on like 429 is recommended or even,
perfect.
even mandated, but we started talking about like what if there's expiry or how many requests are left, and that was too much logic to put into that. That's actually why I stood up. The thing for certification analytics is custom fields. Data Dictionary's done a great job, but we still have so many custom fields. Like you showed that alignment report, there's still tons out there.
Yeah, and you can see that if you use the certification tool to see those. The certification tool does a great job of separating out the, I know I'm not supposed to go live, but let's do it. Yeah. I agree. There's some lawyers that do that probably don't like that we do that, right? So you can definitely see we have 1,562 fields. This is RE Colorado out of Denver. And they've done a good job of putting in just the RESO fields. So we have 869 fields across 9 resources. But still, yeah, of local fields, there's 693 local fields that don't match Data Dictionary yet.
Yeah.
And really, this is a microscope, right? We're staring at one MLS. The analytics group is taking aggregations of those, really zooming out from a telescope and saying, okay, of this field, how many have this specific field? Should this go back into Data Dictionary and get approved into Data Dictionary? So it's good to be able to separate by those two, and this is a common way that we look at things too, to be able to see those the amount of local fields. And if you're an MLS, I know talking to John at Statewide, it's common for him to go in here and try to say like, okay, why don't we figure out a way to get this field as a RESO field in some way and try to clean this up a little bit. But it's a great point that there is a lot of local fields.
That is part of the testing too with 2.0, right? We're adding a lot of enumerations, a lot of new values.
Yep.
And then doing comparisons to see, is this actually being applied somewhere else when it really does belong here? Josh has been writing a lot of stuff using AI, machine learning. He's also been taking the mappings from others that have contributed the mappings to him to let him really understand how things are being presented from MLSs, how we're translating stuff, and then again, just trying to apply machine learning to identify things where people are unintentionally, or maybe it's legacy, have put in custom fields that should be standard fields or standard enumerations.
Now we can see you guys. We're just being blinded up here, and it's just like dark out there. It's feedback time. Anybody got anything else? Yeah. All righty. Thanks, Jason. I owe you.
I missed an alignment report, the consumer alignment report, which kind of goes back to what Catherine was saying. That's coming a little bit later, but that is coming soon as well.
Oh, it is something that's coming soon. Awesome. Are those going to be premium reports? Has that been decided yet of what's going to be premium and what's not? Is that a can of worms? Should I not talk about that?
So you got Sam to stand up.
Yeah. So you'll all have one straightforward report you can get right away, which will be your organization versus industry averages. That alignment report will be available for everyone. The provider market and consumer alignment reports, which are much more complex and take a lot more software development time, will be premium products. So we'll get you more information about those.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Okay.
Hi. I think if we can have, I know that we have this feature in some of the providers like RESO to see each MLS what kind of feed types they have. But if we can have that also, and also a description of what kind of fields are included in each feed type would be great.
So feed type being like REST
IDX.
versus Web API, or
No,
I see.
IDX, IDX plus, VOW.
Oh, yeah. That's confusing. We do have an IDX, which I think, wasn't there an IDX payload group at one point, and that I think this IDX button tries to hit on that specifically, but what fields would be included in the different versions. What you're seeing is a full version here, and I 1,000% understand what you're saying, that you don't always get these fields, and that happens to us a lot as well, where you're getting the IDX payload, or you're getting an IDX plus payload, or a broker back office payload. However, under the new guidelines from NAR and under the new MLS policy, you should be able to request a one feed and receive every field. And that is part of NAR policy that MLSs should be adhering to.
Yeah, but as a IDX vendor, we need to make sure that some fields don't show up in some cases or not.
Yes.
Depending on the license that the receiver has.
And I think this is actually a really good topic at Constellation One. We work with a lot of agent tools, agent websites, a lot of IDX stuff, but we also work with the big franchises, and we do VAL stuff, we do back office stuff.
Exactly.
We have our own set of repo of rules by MLS, because IDX and what you actually receive per MLS is different from MLS, 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 right? Some might include pending, or some might include coming soon, others do not. And so same thing as you get to VAL, the rules get a little fuzzy between each one. And so you really have to have an entire repository by MLS. These are the rules for each category. And then there's another layer on top of that, because there's exceptions. And certain customers, certain franchises will get exceptions. You get this plus this or that. It's a lot to manage. And we've definitely had to invest a bunch in this.
There is absolutely no standard for, everybody has their own description of what IDX or IDX Plus or VOW is. And it's very difficult for IDX vendors to manage all of that.
What I think would be a good idea is to save that for pain points, because I think that is a great topic to discuss even further.
It's great, but we have people standing here. Let's just go. Just go.
Oh, let's just keep going.
Keep going. We have people standing here. Let's do it.
I have great news. We have the RCP 35 in transport, and that's meant to address that specifically.
Yeah.
So IDX, VAL, BBO, those are essentially labels, and there is no guarantee of that being the same across MLSs, but there is a proposal to communicate that in the data. Is this record part of IDX, VAL, or whatever, and is this field part of that feed as well? So
that's right.
Check that one out.
And this also relates to something that we were talking about in the R&D session 2 days ago. So you might want to talk to them, because this was something I brought up as well. And it's like a step before you get the data feed. It's when you're looking at getting the data feed and they're saying, what kind of feed do you want to apply for? And we're like, we don't know. What do we get? And they're like, we don't know. Apply and you'll find out. So it's like...
You got to pass the bill before you can read it, right?
That's
an old joke. That's a really old joke, but it's similar.
That is part of one of the things the R&D group is looking into, is just more of an upfront resource and standard for vendors like ourselves to know before we get into it what we need to do and what we'll get out of it.
What a great place to put that, though. Once we're able to digest I'm assuming this is coming in metadata. I don't know a ton about the change that's coming, but it would likely be in metadata that this system could process, show you the different feed offerings and what's included, what fields are included in that field, and what you can display.
Yeah.
But it goes way beyond that too, as Rick's saying. You end up in these weird display guidelines, which brings you even further, and you're not sure what you can display for certain markets, like calculated fields versus fields that aren't even in the versus fields that are in the MLS versus calculated fields.
And actually, I wanted to bring this up in pain points. More complicated than that is the compliance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
So that should be also clear in the, from somewhere, there should be some standard.
What do you mean by compliance? That's kind of a
Like the
broad
requirements
term.
of the MLS is like, there are some standard ones, like you should have the logo of the MLS,
Okay,
disclaimer, things like this, but some MLSs have very complicated compliance, and it's very difficult to actually, for the IDX vendors to, because we are responsible for that, to make sure that client websites are compliant.
Yeah, understood. I know consumers and third parties out there that have built repositories, databases, APIs per MLS that kind of return this stuff back out. But it takes a long time to get. It changes regularly. Trying to keep it accurate is tough. It is difficult. And it's critical though, right? I mean, the risks of getting it wrong, huge.
yeah.
Yeah. Can we bring back up Dan's screen for a sec on that certification report?
Oh, I don't have the certs up, but yeah, I can bring them back up.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank you. So just a couple clarification points because that was great. Eric's right. Go to transport in terms of feed types and how we express that in metadata. Go to the R&D meetings in terms of how we express disclaimers and rules about display. Those things are in process, but we need a lot of folks with that business need to be there. In terms of what you're seeing on the screen right now, again, we've tagged some fields that the community has said are IDX fields. But if you look at this here with 250 fields, we worked with MLS Grid on some just examples of what their data looks like, and most companies have 600 fields in their IDX feed. So this doesn't mean that RE Colorado's IDX feed will have 246 fields. It means those are the ones that were tagged as very common IDX fields, but those feeds are different. So it is important that we move forward with those standards to express to the data consumers right there in the data feed and in the metadata exactly what kind of business use there is and what kind of a feed it's for.
We used to have availability in here, and I don't know why that's not working anymore, but that's a great, did we get rid of that?
We did not. It is there for most MLSs. Some of them have not been fully sampled. So you'll see some of them, depending on the vendor, we may have done just the metadata validation. Maybe we haven't done a full sampling of all the records. But thank you for the live demo to bring that up right now, Dan.
What's that? I didn't hear what
He
you said.
said thank you.
Oh, okay. It sounded like a backhanded thank you, but that's fine. I know we use the availability piece a ton in here to look at the field too, because I think as Sam was saying, sometimes an MLS can say that they're providing the field and it can be in that metadata, and they just have the field available, but the field's not populated at all. So they may have vegetation, but nothing's in it. And this is a quick way to go check if the field is available and is currently being populated. Especially, I believe it had enumeration counts in here before too, that we were able to go see.
Yeah, we've used that to decide, is it just us or is this everybody? And it's been a great tool for that.
Yeah, and to your point, we've seen it before where it's like, they have the field, there's data in it, but we're not receiving the field. You know, because IDX doesn't allow the field, so they don't send it in our payload.
Yeah, or sometimes it's just a mistake and you just gotta ask and it gets turned on, gets added.
Yeah. Okay.
You want us to just switch
Yeah,
to
let's
the next?
pop back to that slide so you can talk about this, Rick, real quick.
So yeah, just
We'll
going
get that
over
with.
a little bit of what's next. So we did not do a data consumer session in this last cycle. We had a lot of work to do. We've come up with a lot of things between pain points, the workgroup sessions. We kicked off Fast Track, a lot of work in certification, analytics, Data Dictionary 2.0. I think there was a lot on everybody's plate. Going forward, the current strategy is we will be looking at a data consumer group coming up in January. We did a developer workshop 2 days by the Bay, July 31st, August 1st, and it was awesome. It was a great thing. We covered a ton of topics. I know it's been up on a couple different slides already. Add edit with media has been a big one. We had a great demo on business rules from Zenlist, who came up and really showed a really great way of how they're doing things. Deprecating metadata, supporting OAuth 2 request tokens, a multiple hour discussion on webhooks, and you can see that's getting so much traction. You know, a big shout out to Richard, to FBS, Rental Beast, who did that demo earlier yesterday and showed, they're updating stuff in 3 seconds. I mean, that's real time. That's getting it done. So it was a great workshop. We did a lot. And I'm here to announce we will certainly be doing it again. Constellation 1 is offered to host. The next one, we're looking at February in Laguna Beach. So
Nice.
I will say the only thing I will add is it's not the biggest room in the world, so we will have to limit space at a certain point. I hope it's not an issue. But Laguna Beach in February could be popular. So when RESO does officially put out the dates, the times, all the rest, I would encourage you register quickly, okay?
Are you looking for future people to host that, Rick?
Always. I think
Yeah.
that's always going to be the case.
Sign us up. We'll host one. I think it'd be fun.
Okay? You heard him. Okay, then I think that's it for us. Any other questions or thoughts? Otherwise, I think we'll take a pause and we'll come back for pain points.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.